Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, and Patreon, and contact Dayspring Discussions on the Facebook group, Twitter account, and dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Well, hello everyone, and we have finally arrived. Avengers Endgame has come to theaters, guys. Lisa and I went and saw it Thursday night, and I went back on Friday. So, of course, we have to talk about it. But I can't do it by myself. No. I am here with the mouth breather herself, Miss Lisa Locke McGahee. Say hello, Lisa.
I don't know what that's about.
Well, you can't breathe through your nose.
Oh, yeah. I have my allergies I sound very weird today, I think, but...
Okay, well, that's okay. All right.
I'm a little congested.
That's all right. We'll go along and just, do what we got to do because we have to talk about this movie, guys. Avengers Endgame, the 22nd film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has arrived. It's the end of what they're calling the Infinity Saga. What comes next? We don't know, aside from Spider-Man Far From Home in a couple of months, but I'm sure Kevin Feige and the crew have something cooking for sure. But we have seen the film, guys. I've seen it twice. A lot of stuff to talk about here, but before we actually get into the movie, I want to talk a little bit about box office. Okay, it just came out this morning that the film, in less than about 5 days, has made $1.2 billion worldwide. Most films, 99% of the films that are released, don't even get that in their entire run. And this film did it in less than 5 days. I mean, when you're talking about opening weekend...
What's the domestic?
You usually say domestic. As of this morning, it was a 350. Okay? For domestic. And a lot of people, when you talk about opening box office numbers, you talk domestic. Because most films don't open in the same country at the same time. So when you talk about best opening weekend, really you can only talk about... domestically, just to be fair about it. But the fact that this movie made so much, and the fact that the film came out within, I think it came out a couple days early in a few other countries, but I'm pretty sure it came out worldwide within the last week or so. But for a film to make that much that quickly is pretty freaking amazing, actually.
Yeah. The
Thursday night, preview numbers were the best ever, beating Star Wars The Force Awakens by, I think, $3 million. So, before we go into dive it, I just want to talk about this real quick. Okay, it's at $1.2 million as of this morning. Let's add Sunday's numbers to it. And let's look at the top box office. Okay, Avatar sits at $2,788,000. Titanic's behind that. Quite a few bit behind it, actually. $2,187,000. Star Wars The Force Awakens, $2,068,000. And then Avengers Infinity War, $2,048,000. So, beyond that, let's drop down to number 5. Jurassic World is
$1.6 billion.
Yes.
Come on.
Let's just say that, okay? Do you think it's going to reach that number by the end of this week?
Worldwide?
Do you think it's going to get past 1.6 by the end of this week?
You mean including next weekend?
Yes.
Probably yes.
Okay. So, say it moves up. Where do you think it has a shot of landing? Because, okay, let's look at it this way, okay? The next big competition, everyone's cleared off, okay? Nothing's coming close till 2 weeks from now when you have Detective Pikachu. 2 weeks after that, you have Aladdin. That's pretty much its only big competition.
So for the next month, there's not much else to see.
Exactly. So it's got to be rolling for the next month. Now, of course, everyone wanted to see this movie opening weekend because otherwise you were going to get spoiled.
Right, yes.
So everyone went and saw it, which is why you have such that high number. To get to that higher stratosphere, the $2 billion, you got to have people coming back 2-3 times. I've seen it twice. I'll probably plan on seeing it at least once more in theaters. I know you said you want to see it again.
I need
Definitely
to see it
as well.
Uh-huh.
So do you think this film is good enough to go back and get regular Joe Schmoes to go back and watch it 2 or 3 times?
I don't know. I think probably. Yeah. I don't know anybody who's seen it who doesn't want to see it again.
Yeah.
So, I think people are going to want to go back and see it, but Yeah, I mean, but I do think we need to talk more about domestic.
Domestic.
Like, why are we talking about worldwide? Like,
because worldwide is the final number.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
When it's all said and done,
but it's
worldwide.
not relevant yet. It's opening weekend. Like, we gotta talk about domestic. Like, opening weekend, domestic is what matters, not worldwide.
Okay, so let's look at the domestic. I'm not sure what these numbers. So let's say number one domestically was Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
So now number one domestically. Well, this
no, because 1.2 was worldwide.
Worldwide, right?
Exactly. So we're
wait,
talking
what was the
350?
domestic?
So we're still not even in the top. Let's see. We're going down here.
So I mean, that to me,
we're like
is
the
disappointing.
top 50.
Like
we're number 50 right now.
So that to me, I find is a kind of a disappointing opening weekend.
No, it's not, because this is what they made in their entire run domestically. This made it in 3 days, not even 3 days.
I guess.
I mean, by next week, I guarantee you, we're going to be up in the 500 million.
Yeah, I guess.
I think that's what it is. They're going to be up there, top 10,
go this one.
top 20. What
all-time opening weekends?
Okay. Avengers Endgame, see? Right
one.
there.
So by 100,000.
Right behind number 2, Avengers Infinity War. Exactly. So, it's already made, the best weekend domestically, of course, beating its predecessor,
right.
Infinity War. Then number 3 was Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
But overall, very opening, impressive numbers.
I mean, I think ultimately, like you said, the drawing force for this was spoilers. People did not want the spoilers. I mean, there are a lot of times when people are like, yeah, I want to go see the movie opening weekend, but whatever. But this is one, like, people did not want the spoilers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, if anything, that was the biggest,
it's
biggest reason.
People, they get offline. I mean, because I had a spoiler, actually. I told you this,
you told
where
me.
Thursday I did my Thursday show, and when I posted on Instagram, I talked about how I was going to go see Avengers that night, so I hashtagged Avengers Endgame, and some guy, before I say this, of course, this is a spoilers review. It's going to be in the title, so we do spoilers. So if you have not watched Avengers Endgame,
stop listening now.
Why have you not seen it? It's made $1.2 billion. Obviously, you've seen the damn thing. Anyway, but somebody put comments, said, Tony dies, Black Widow dies, you're welcome. And I was like, okay, this guy's joking, which is not really funny. And if he's serious, he's an asshole. Went to watch the movie. Of course, you get to the Soul Stone, and I know how this is going to go because some asshole ruined it for me. Mm-hmm. And then again, the Tony thing was a little more impactful to me, which we'll get to eventually. But the Natalie, death wasn't. I didn't really care too much about
the what?
The Natalie's death.
The Natalie's?
Natalie's death. Black Widow.
Her name is Natasha.
They call her Nat.
They call her Nat.
Natalie.
They don't call her Natalie.
They've called her Natalie several times. Okay.
I've never heard them call her
I've heard it several times.
I've heard them call her Nat because her name is
Natasha, Natalie, Black Widow, the redhead, whatever you want to call her. Anyway, but it wasn't as impactful to me. I don't know, because either it was the scene or the fact that I knew, they were going back and forth. And then I'm like, well I know it's going to end.
It made more sense for her to go because he has a family.
Okay. We'll get to that eventually. But anyway, spoilers. It ruined it for me.
Yeah.
And I hate that piece of shit, and I hope he dies. So anyway,
it's a little harsh.
No, did you see that one guy? This one guy actually, I forget where it was. He actually was walking out of the theater and was spoiling stuff for people who were waiting to go see the movie, and they beat the crap out of him. I mean, I wouldn't beat the crap out of a guy, but I'd definitely give him one good punch to the face.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, if I had met that guy that spoiled it for me, I'd definitely give him a good smacking. But anyway, so impressive numbers for it. So now let's get to the juicy part. What did you think of the film? Lisa, go.
I mean, I obviously thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I know there's been a lot to talk about with it. There's a lot of confusion and weird. I don't know. Overall, I liked it very much. So.
Okay.
I mean, I cried a lot.
Yes. Hashtag cry time.
Yeah. Hashtag.
Hashtag cry time.
Yeah.
Campia coined that. Hashtag cry time.
Yeah. It was definitely a cry fest. I think for most everybody there, in general. So. Yeah, but I mean, it definitely hit you in all the feels. Like,
it was
the emotional highs, the lows, the all over the place. It did what it was supposed to do.
The thing I loved most about it is the fact that it really does feel like the end of a saga, the end of a series. It's like they could not make any more Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, which would be crazy, of course, but we would all be satisfied. you know, because you got the bookend with especially the main two characters of the MCU, Tony and Steve. Okay, you got endings for them, I guess, in that sense. So you know, from a story perspective, you could end it and just be fine. You know, you could have 22 movies that all fit together so well crafted, and just be one complete story, the Infinity Saga, and it would be great. But obviously, Marvel and Disney aren't going to do that because, hello, 1.2 billion in 5 days. So they're going to keep on pushing these things out. But that was what I loved. It was really just, it was all like payoff. Like for those of us who have been watching all these movies for 11 years now, and you know, going back and watching them multiple times and just, you know, enjoying it. You had all these cameos, all these little lines that called back to previous films, and all these fan service, I guess you would say, which is not a bad thing in some cases, but fan services to all of us who adore these films and love these films so much. So that's what I think it did really well, was just, you know, almost say thank you guys for being with us, and hey, here's this big, awesome fight sequence at the end, just whet your appetite, you know? So, but overall, I enjoyed the film. However, I didn't like it as much as Infinity War. I think Infinity War was a much more well-crafted film story-wise. I mean, and I guess I can't blame them, but all those time travel questions, there's plot holes. It's so many plot holes in my eyes, and that's what it comes down to. As I've told people before, especially going back when I talk about Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice and Captain America: Civil War, where people are, you know, saying, you know, there are so many plot holes in Dawn of Justice, but there's also plot holes in Captain America: Civil War. And I tell people, I'm like, yes, but every film has plot holes or things that you question about, but it's the amount that they have that, you know, can either, you know, really start to take away your enjoyment of the film. The theatrical cut of Dawn of Justice had way too many plot holes for me to truly enjoy the film. The, you know, uncut or whatever director's cut filled in some of those holes to where that makes it a much more enjoyable film. Civil War, while it did have a couple plot holes in it, didn't have as many, so I was able to enjoy it. So that's why I like it better than Dawn of Justice. With this, it's kind of the same thing, where I loved, you know, the characters and, of course, the fight sequences and everything that was happening. But there were so many questions that were unanswered and things that, how could that have happened? That doesn't make sense. And it just, you know, dampens the enjoyment.
Or even, it wasn't even that there were things that were unanswered, because they tried to address the time travel, the things that we are all seeing as plot holes, you know, they tried to address it in there, like tried to have it like an explanation. And
it was funny too, because
it was too hard to understand, and it was too quick. Like it, you know.
Like so that the scene where Bruce explains time travel to Rhodey and Scott. And you know, I go in the second time. You know, I didn't pee at all that first viewing. Okay, you know, I held it in 3 hours, even though halfway through I had to go pee. I held it in, so I watched the whole movie the first time. So the second time I go in, I know I'm gonna, you know, pee at some point. So I go, and that's the part I went to go pee at. So I know, right? Because I didn't think about it. I thought, because I tried to stay, and I thought it was going to be that part where Hulk and the Ancient One. I thought that was going to be the thing to like really listen to, but I was like, oh no, the part I needed to listen to was the Hulk.
You need to listen to both of those parts, because they play in together. Because one of those two, that's the thing. Those are the two pieces of the movie where they try to explain how the time travel in their universe is not like it is in the movies. But the two pieces they're too quick. Like, I feel like I get sort of kind of what they were trying to say, but I don't think they did enough explanation to make to ease people to where we're not sitting there like, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Right.
Like,
yeah, and I had so many questions, of course, you know, just going back to, you know, Steve returning the time stones gave me so many questions too as well. And again, it's just too many plot holes. I'm hoping at some point, you know, I need the Russo brothers to come out and be like, okay, this is our quantum physics guy, okay? He's going to explain why we're right, you know, or something like that.
No. There's no quantum physics guy. They made all this shit up.
I'd like to think they're a little smarter than that. I mean, they spent so much time, but that's what it is. And that's, I guess, what I'm a little disappointed too, is like they have, you know, put so much thought and, you know, care into these films and the story. And I'm like, I feel like they kind of dropped the ball, you know? I was like, how could you go from a film like Infinity War that, you know, is so well crafted in both dialogue and story and characters. And then go to this, which has, great story and great characters, but, it's like, whatever. They're here 22 films in. We don't care. They're coming no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but it definitely seemed like the time travel thing. I mean, time travel is a complicated thing whenever
I understand that, exactly. I understand that totally.
Tries to do it. But with them trying to take time travel and then make it a whole, like, completely different than any other movie has ever done time travel.
It's like they gave that little explanation to be like, hey guys, they put it in there to be like, hey guys, we're not actually going to explain this, so this is kind of us covering our butts or whatever.
Right.
It's like, hey, we can't answer these questions, so we're going to give you this little couple sentence explanation that, will have to satisfy you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was definitely distracting.
It was sloppy.
Well, and that was the whole thing. Like, when we were driving home from the movie, that was, I couldn't really focus on what things I liked about the movie all that much because I was so focused on, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, this is everything. I don't understand. Everything has to be different. Like, how in the world? Like, I don't get it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I was distracted by it.
Yeah.
I wasn't distracted by it during the movie, but like after the movie, I couldn't stop thinking about all that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's table that. We'll talk about time travel later on as we go through. So normally when we review a movie, I like to just bring up the IMDb page and just go through kind of character for character, talking about it, kind of hitting all points with that certain character. And I feel like we couldn't do it this time. I think, the fact that the film was such a blend of everyone and having their own moments throughout the film, I couldn't do just character for character. So I wrote out kind of scenes or plot points, I guess, throughout the film. It's technically in order, I guess. I might have not remembered it exactly how it's supposed to, but we'll just go through it, of course. Some things will be quick, some things not so quick, and just go with it like we usually do. And of course, when we're done, you guys fire back on the social media group and Gmail. Let us know what you think. So, you ready?
Sure.
Okay, so the first scene of the movie with Hawkeye's family, there was kind of talk that this would probably be the first scene of the film. Where,
like I was expecting this to be how the movie opened, and I still cried.
You still cried?
Yeah, I still cried.
I know you cried with, Scott and his daughter. I didn't see you cry for this one.
Yeah, no, I didn't cry like a ton with this one because I was expecting it.
Yeah.
I was expecting this to be how the movie opened.
Yeah, exactly. You were expecting this moment to come, so you knew it was coming. But yeah, it was still...
it was still definitely emotionally impactful, like watching his response to his family disappear.
Yeah, given the fact that, you find out in Age of Ultron that Hawkeye, this tough, badass assassin, has a family and he cares about them and he's kind of a softie, really. Yeah. So it kind of changes the tone of the character. And out of all the Avengers, he has the most to lose.
And he lost
all of it, which turned him into a completely different person who went on this kind of vengeful journey to, take his anger out on people who he felt like should have lost it all, who didn't deserve to survive the snap, I guess, is what it is and what it came down to. So, it was kind of impactful, I guess, with that. And then we jump to Tony and Nebula in space. Last time we saw them, they were on Titan, and they just seen everyone get blown away, and it looks like they were trying to fix up, I believe it's the Benatar is the name of Peter's current ship, fix the Benatar, ran out of juice, they get stuck in space, and I love they were playing the football, little football, of course, and Tony trying to connect with Nebula was very interesting.
Well, I think that was one of the things I actually liked kind of most about this movie was Nebula's journey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that Nebula's journey in this film was like definitely one of the highlights for me.
Oh yeah,
like just watching her kind of humanize, like watching her care about, because even you could see it all throughout the movie, like her relationship with Rocket, and then her relationship just in general with especially with Rhodey, like just watching her kind of develop friendships, like where you could tell, like even though she still was that hardened on the outside, like you could tell that she was emotionally invested in these people.
Yeah.
I mean, I really...
I think it's just her journey. I think it's her journey, going back, of course, we watched the previous two Guardians of the Galaxy films, and we watched Infinity War, so just her journey in that, from where she went from the beginning of Guardians, which is what we saw in this 2014 Nebula, to, exactly where she was in this film, to when they go back in time and stuff, and her change of the character, where she's technically a Guardian.
Yeah, for real. I really... mean, honestly, that was one of my favorite moments of the film in general, was just her like going for full circle at the end to where like she literally killed herself, like to try to save the to do the right thing, like to honestly making that choice to do the right thing. I really enjoyed that.
Indeed. And then, of course, they get saved by Captain Marvel, which is kind of like, it's one of the things where, like, people thought about it as, like, it's way too obvious to happen, but it was the obvious thing to happen, and that's what did happen. Now, I'm curious, though, like, the mid-credits scene of
With the
Captain
pager?
Marvel with the pager, did that happen first, and then she went out to go find him? Because
it would have had to have happened.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking happened.
I mean, it could not possibly have happened after she's already there.
Yeah, exactly. So
it had to happen
I think that's
before.
what happened is she came back, and we didn't see that scene in the film, so I think that's what happened. She comes back, and he's greeted by Steve and of course Pepper, which is I like that scene because especially the scene after where he's very skinny. I love that. I don't know if it's CGI or if it was Robert Downey Jr. that made himself skinny.
I think it was probably CGI.
Yeah, so they made him real skinny, and he goes off in his rant where he's like, "Remember when I wanted to build a suit of armor around the world?"
Yeah.
And Steve's like, "Remember how that went?" And they have kind of that back and forth, that kind of resentment where where Tony was kind of resenting or mad at Steve for what had happened, as far as not only with stopping him from doing that, but also their fracture. Because even the Russo brothers have said Civil War was about breaking the Avengers up so that they wouldn't be able to defeat Thanos when he came. And, that's kind of what Tony was saying, was like, hey, if you were on my side, if we were together, we could have defeated him, and, I'm pissed off at you because of that. So, and then, of course, they find Thanos. They find him on his little retirement home, I guess you would say.
His retirement planet.
His retirement planet, okay. And they're all set and ready to kick his ass and take back the stones and make him snap the world back the way it was, or the universe back the way it was. We come to find out, nope. He used that last power surge to destroy the stones, and pretty much all hope is lost. And that's kind of a really down point for the heroes. You can see it in all their faces, where it's like they can't fix it. They lost. And they
lost.
They
like
lost.
Yeah.
They for real lost, and none of them I think I've ever really suffered that kind of defeat before. Is what it is, and of course Thor takes out his anger by chopping off Thanos' head, and then it's really done for good. So, and then we fast forward to 5 years later, see how the world is. You have Steve running kind of an intervention, support group, of course, which one of the Russo brothers play the character, and people are talking about it too, where he played like this openly gay character, which is really one of the first in the MCU. People were talking about too.
I didn't even. I mean, I noticed that he was gay, but like I didn't even notice like. Maybe I don't know. It didn't. I obviously it didn't.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't faze me at all either.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the dialogue said it, but it's not like, it's
true.
finally a gay character.
It wasn't like, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, and then we get to the scene with Natalie, where she's coordinating with. You have Nebula and Rocket, then you have Captain Marvel, and then you have Rhodey, which. Captain Marvel got a haircut, looks like, which is that's how her hair is, like currently in the comics. It's really short like that. So, for some people it's like, oh, she's butch. And I'm like, no, that's just how it is, dude. That's just a haircut. Exactly. That's just how it is. And, she's kind of coordinating still, trying to, I guess she's maybe trying to overcompensate for, again, their loss 5 years ago.
She doesn't know what to do. She's just lost.
She's trying to control, she's still trying to control things that she can control. She's like, trying to keep track of all the dangers so that nothing else surprises them, I guess.
Yeah, but she's fighting a losing battle.
Yeah, exactly. Why is she still doing it, I guess, what she said.
Yeah, and she's just doing it because she's lost. Like, she doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I love, there's one part in there that I really liked was Rocket and Nebula go away, and then before Captain Marvel goes away, she gives Rhodey a look. And actually, I think that's a little hint that the two of them used to date in the comics.
Oh.
Most recently they used to date. I don't know if
Who
they're
did?
Captain Marvel and Rhodey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if they're still dating, but I know they, like, in recent years they dated. Is what it is. And I don't know if they're still dating in the comics or not, but I think it was a little nod to that as well. I mean, they're both military, so they have kind of that shared interest or commonality among them. But and then Steve walks in, of course, and they have their little pep sorrow talk or whatever she threatens to throw a sandwich at him or something. And then the return of Scott Lang.
Yeah.
So, Scott,
Can I just say
go
I
for
thought
it.
it was a super cop-out that a rat is what pulled him out of the quantum zone? I mean, come on now.
What do you want it to be?
He pushed that rat. Just happened to push all the right buttons.
Well,
for
see,
the
I didn't notice
return
till the second.
sequence.
I thought Scott got himself out until that second time. I was like, oh yeah, the rat probably pressed the button.
You didn't notice it?
I mean, I saw the rat. I saw the rat there.
He stepped on the thing, and then it said "return sequence initiated."
I thought it was Scott getting himself out, and the rat just happened to be there.
the rat
until the
did-
second time. The second time I noticed it.
The
Yes.
rat definitely did it, and I was like, lame.
Oh well, you
But
got
whatever.
to get out
I
some
mean, there
point.
had to be a way to get him out. I guess.
Anyway, but he was in there for 5 hours, according to him. It was really 5 years. He walks out wondering what the hell happened, and he goes sees his daughter who.
Oh my God,
Yeah, and
lost
that's
it.
when I noticed you. That's when I noticed you. Hashtag cry time.
Oh, I totally lost it.
Yeah, and I was leaning over to Josh on the other side of me, and I was like, "Hey, do you guys have any napkins?" Like, no. I'm like, well, Lisa's crying. I'm trying to find some
Well,
napkins.
when he was at that like memorial or whatever, just like freaking out, trying to
Find her name.
to make sure her name wasn't on there, I was like, "Oh my God!"
And he
please
found
don't
his own
let-
name?
Please don't let Cassie be dead. Please don't let Cassie be dead.
Right.
Because like I was thinking the same thing he was like, please don't let Cassie be dead. And then he saw his name, but then he went and found her, and like just her reaction to seeing him back, like
Yeah, that
you
was
know.
yeah the way it was played off
yeah,
and stuff
it was
like
really,
that.
I really like.
Yeah, I know it's getting. You got. I mean, for me, it was like, yeah, she's still alive. But again, it goes to he lost 5 years of her life.
Right.
Imagine going
No.
away for 5 years for Nora.
No.
And all the things that you miss. Like
No.
I always tell my mom, she's missing all this. This part of Nora growing up
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
But but it was good. And then of course he pops
shows
up.
up.
He shows up and the game changes. He goes and he talks to Steve and Natalie about the quantum realm and how there might be a way to actually time travel. So they go to the one man they feel like can help them, Tony Stark. But Tony seems a little happy because he's got his own little place out in the woods, his own farm, so to speak. Took a page out of Barton's book, as he said he was going to. He's got his daughter, who's cute as hell. Cute little kid, of course.
Love you 3000.
And they show up and try to convince him to help them. But he refuses because he doesn't want to jeopardize what he's lost. Which
Reasonable.
makes total sense. You go back
I mean, he's seen everybody lose so much, and he finally has a little piece of happiness. And
exactly. He doesn't. He
it's-
doesn't want to
risk it.
which
Yeah.
totally makes sense. Even though the people he cared about, like Scott and Steve and all them, they lost people as well. So he does, of course, sympathize with them, and of course, there's that little bit of resentment there too.
I don't think it's about that. I honestly just think it was about.
Do you really think? I think 'cause I got that scene that he still holds. He said he was happy to see him, but he still holds that little bit of grudge against
Well,
Cap.
no, I'm not saying he doesn't hold a grudge. I don't think that's why he wouldn't help. I think he wouldn't help because he was afraid to lose his daughter.
Yeah,
Going back and undoing it could have potentially meant undoing his child.
true.
And I wouldn't be willing to risk that.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
I tell people all the time, in my line of work, like, other people's pain is irrelevant to your own. It doesn't matter how other people are hurting, unfortunately. Like, your pain is your own.
Yeah.
And when it's your child, that's all that matters to you.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I completely think for him it was about, he was completely unwilling at that time to risk losing his daughter. Mm-hmm. Like, that was all that mattered to him at that moment.
Makes sense, definitely. So they go to the next guy who might be able to help him, Bruce Banner. And Bruce has changed a bit. He has become one with the Hulk. They've got Bruce's mind with the Banner's body. And for me, I saw something like this coming because they were talking, back when Ragnarok about how is the evolution of the Hulk or evolution of Bruce with the Hulk. And, he's going to go step by step through it. And this seemed like a logical point to get to. This has happened in the comics. Probably my favorite actual run of the Hulk was when it had Bruce's mind with Hulk's body. And for the way they got there was kind of psychological. And they had kind of reached an agreement. But I guess they were doing something else in this film. I wish you would have seen it. It was like, yeah, he had that next step, that evolution. But we didn't get to see it, I'd like to have seen it, I guess. But in any event, though, I liked the way he played it because you could tell the way Ruffalo plays him. Bruce is, very sorrowful. He's like, oh, I got a monster inside of me. I don't want to hurt anybody. I'm very sorrowful. But now he's like, all happy-go-lucky. Like, he's so much like,
I thought it was super annoying.
You thought it was annoying?
I thought it was super annoying.
I didn't find it that annoying.
I was not a fan.
Yeah?
It was one of my least favorite parts of the movie was the Hulk.
I thought it was weird, though, because now, he at the beginning, he was himself, and then there was that one little part where he, had an out-of-body experience. But for the most part, that means Ruffalo played almost the entire movie in this motion capture, suit. Yeah. And but I thought it was cute, I guess. I didn't really care the way, because the Hulk, and not one of my favorite characters, so I didn't mind it too much.
I mean, I get why they did it, because they had to do it, because Hulk was the only one that would be able to handle the
snap,
gauntlet, and they needed it to be somebody who knew what was going on. They couldn't trust that with just the Hulk. So, I understand why the Russo brothers did this to the Hulk. In the movie,
he's like,
but it made sense for the story. But I didn't like it.
Well, it goes back to going to the part where he snapped, where it was like, this is why I was made or whatever. And then if you go back to the original Avengers film, and he's had that talk with Tony inside the lab, and basically talking about why this happened to him, where there has to be a reason of destiny or something like that. Maybe this was it. Yeah. Maybe this was, going, 7 years later, this is why the Hulk exists, so that Bruce could do this and still survive, perhaps. Yeah. But I didn't mind it either way. I think it was funny, of course, the kids taking the picture with him. Too. Yeah. That was,
I thought it was annoying.
It was cute. Come on.
I didn't like it.
Okay. Well, going back to Tony, he cracks time travel. He does it, and he says, shit. Yeah. And, of course, his little daughter. And she wants juice pops to blackmail him, of course. So, and it looks like Tony gets back in the game. They're going to get the old gang back together. So Rocket and Bruce, or Hulk, go find Thor.
Oh, God.
You want to talk? You want to tangle this?
I just don't understand why they did that. I mean, I get it. Chris Hemsworth is a funny guy, and I know that they were just trying to play on his humor, but I just thought the fat suit was so unnecessary. It just was weird. It was just weird. I mean, from somebody who doesn't think that Thor is super sexy, do you feel like there was a purpose for giving him the fat suit?
I got two sides.
Him lazy, sitting around playing video games without making him fat.
I got two sides of this. Okay, one, he's a god. He's not going to get fat.
He's not going to get fat.
He can have long hair and look a little grungy.
Dreads, but
he's still got the abs.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous, okay? Other side is, people like you swoon over Chris Hemsworth. So to see him throughout most of this film look like a slobby piece of crap, I quite enjoyed.
I just thought it was silly. I don't understand why they did it.
Because it was comical.
But it wasn't. It was weird.
The joke at first was funny, but after about 20 minutes, exactly, it was too much.
It was just silly.
And again, to me,
the funny part wasn't him with the fat suit. The funny part was him sitting around, being a drunk, playing video games with his friends. It would have been just as funny if he didn't have that weird fat suit.
Yeah, just give him the long hair.
And it was a weird fat suit anyway. Yeah. It wasn't even like a normal fat suit. His shape wasn't right. He still had a normal waist, but and I don't know, it was just weird. I just thought it was weird.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it, but again, he went through the whole film kind of like that. I mean, I felt like at some point throughout the film he should have changed. I mean, at some point they should have gave him a haircut or something at least.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was appropriate what they did with him in terms of
the character,
the acting of it, the way that Thor's behaving, how when he went back to Asgard,
his sorrow,
his interactions with his mother, his pain, his suffering, all that. I mean, I totally see why he was isolating himself and sitting there playing video games, trying to pretend like nothing had happened. I get it. That totally made sense, but the costuming was still silly.
Yeah, I mean, for the character, I love it because throughout the whole film he felt like he had failed. He didn't go for the head. He felt like he was supposed to defeat Thanos, and he didn't, and he failed. And that's, he was regressing into himself, and that was the whole thing. I mean, even when it get back to, snapping the stones to make everything right, he was so determined that he wanted to be the one to do it because he felt like he had failed and he had to put it right. Mm-hmm. So, but again, fat suit. Just leave out the fat suit, I guess, is what it was. You could have done that and left out the fat suit. But we did get to see Valkyrie, which was nice. Yeah. That was pretty cool.
And I know we're kind of skipping ahead, but I liked how that came full circle, too, with Valkyrie kind of getting to take over Asgard.
Yeah, the new leader of the Asgardians.
I mean, she really is now.
he's going to go off and do his own thing, which we're going to get to,
Yeah.
which is going to be very interesting for Guardians 3, I think. But yes, there's that. So Tony comes back after, a couple time tests with Scott, and he becomes a baby and then an old man, and there's that scene.
Unsuccessful time test.
Exactly. Okay, and he comes back. But to me, the real thing about it was him giving Cap back his shield, because at the end of Civil War, he said, "You don't deserve that. My father made that shield. You don't deserve it." So then he dropped it. What I don't get, okay, here's what I'm trying to figure out too. And Cap's shield is one of my topics of plot hole discussions, is what it is. So just to jump around a little bit, okay. So Civil War, you have the one shield. That's the one shield that Howard Stark made him. And in Civil War, he dropped the shield. And the distinction about that shield is that it's got the claw marks from Black Panther earlier in the film. Okay? Jump to Spider-Man Homecoming, and when they're clearing out Avengers Tower, Jon Favreau's character is talking about, yeah, we got Cap's new shield, which made me think that Tony made Cap another shield. Okay? So then we jump to this scene here, and he gives him back a shield. Now, at first, I'm thinking it's the new shield that he made him because it doesn't have the claw marks on it. Because how do you get the claw marks out of, the vibranium, the strongest metal on Earth, that was made, the claw marks were made from vibranium, the strongest metal on Earth, You couldn't just wax that out, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, but you could take more vibranium and fill it in.
Possibly, maybe. Okay, maybe.
I mean, they're friends with the
I'll maybe give it that.
now.
But, okay, and then the second time I watched it, he said he made it for you, which I'm assuming he's returning to his father, which makes you think it's the original shield. Okay? So, jump ahead. Battle scene with Thanos. Thanos breaks the shield, okay? It's toast, okay? Jump to the end of the film, Old Man Steve. He gives Anthony Mackie, Falcon, a brand new shiny shield. What is that? What shield is that?
Tony just came back from Cap's been in the 50s. He's been back. He went back to the beginning.
But Cap had his shield the entire time he was in the ice, and then he kept it with him when he was out of the ice. Okay, which he had again all the way through. So where did Cap acquire a shield like that at any point in time?
I don't know.
Again, plot hole.
Well, who knows though? But if he was married to
Carter,
Peggy was involved. She was still working with Howard.
But to the rest of the world, everyone thought there was no vibranium left. Remember, it wasn't until the end of Black Panther that T'Challa decided to open its gates and let people know, hey, we're a powerful nation, and yes, we have plenty of vibranium.
I don't know.
Because in First Avenger, Howard said that's vibranium, the strongest metal on Earth, and that's the last of it.
Who knows?
So where do they get more vibranium?
It's hard to tell.
Exactly. Plot hole. Okay. So, going back, then they gather in the group again, of course.
To go find Clint.
And go find Clint. Natalie finds Clint. And that's really a strong relationship, not only in this film, but I think throughout the entire MCU, is their relationship where Natasha, of course, we come to find out, I say go back to Avengers, where she's so desperate to save him because he saved her. He was sent to kill her. He decided not to because he saw the good in her. And there was that one moment when they're sitting there on top of the ledge, with the Soul Stone, and what is it? Something like, I try not to judge people by their worst decision, or something like that.
Yeah.
Referring to the fact that Clint saw the good in her and decided to give her a second chance.
Well, they both have done that. I think that kind of played out too. To both of them have done bad things, but they both also have done a lot of good things.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it was necessarily just one particular thing. I think they both were just reflecting on the fact that they each have made very bad decisions in their lives.
Right.
They both have done things that would be considered horrible things, but they both are good people, and they care ultimately about each other and about making the right decision.
Yeah, and with Natalie, it's about the fact that, switch to Age of Ultron, we find out she can't have kids. It's part of her final test in the Red Room where, it's part of her training, so to speak, so she can never really have a family of her own, except for the Avengers, I guess you would say. So that's why she's so close with, say, Hawkeye's kids. Hawkeye's kids as well, and why she, she feels that connection. It's her best friend. She knows what he lost, so she goes back to try to comfort him and try to get him back in the fold. Be like,
well,
hey,
I think she just thinks she's the only one too that can bring him back in.
That's probably true. Yeah, I agree with that. So, but man, he was going on a warpath too. I love his sword. His sword was so cool.
Yeah, that was pretty.
That was his own.
Cool.
Because in the comics, like his outfit that he wore he was a character known as Ronin, which in the comics, after House of M, when Scarlet Witch erased all mutants and rewrote reality, before that, she killed several Avengers, one of them being Vision, one of them being Hawkeye, and when they reset reality, this guy named Ronin came back, and we come to find out that it was actually Clint the whole time. So that's his kind of Ronin costume is what he was wearing in this film. And so then he comes back and he does a little time travel test where he goes back to his old farm and, is so happy to see his kids. And we come to find out it's possible. They can time travel. And we go to Act 2, and first off, they got to find the stones. They got to figure out
where to go.
Where to go to get all the stones. They come to find out they can get all the 3 of the stones at one jump point, and then they got to spread out to get the other stones.
I really liked that scene though when they were trying to figure out like where the stones had been in time and what point in time would have been the best place to go to intercept each one. I thought that was a neat.
And I liked it too because they realized they had to go in their own time. Like jump forward a little bit when they didn't get a chance. They messed up getting the cube, and they're like, okay, well, when do we have another chance to do it? And Tony's like, well, I have an idea. I'm not 100% certain. And if I'm not certain, we might be stuck back there. But they took that chance. But they had to go back to where their own time because they knew that's where each stone was at because they had seen it.
They couldn't go back too far.
Exactly.
Right? They had to go back to where
they couldn't go back to, say, 1930s and get the cube from Norway or whatever where Skull found it because they're not 100% sure it was there.
Right.
Exactly. So they had to find the cubes, and of course you had that little thing with Thor about the ether and his whole comedic thing, which again by that time it had gotten a little old. It got a little old, of course. So
Yeah.
But it's that. So they decide they're going to time travel. Cap gives his speech, which pretty good at that, right?
Right.
Yeah. All right. Okay. And they split up into teams and go time travel. So, first stop, New York, 2020.
2012.
2012? I said 20?
You said 20.
Okay. Yeah. No, not that far yet. Okay. 2012, the Battle for New York, the original Avengers film. They go. Bruce goes off to find the Ancient One to try to get the Time Stone. And what I find interesting about that is like he's trying to plead with her to get the Time Stone, and he thought he was going to find Doctor Strange, knowing that, Strange wasn't Doctor Strange yet at that point. And he's talking like, well, Doctor Strange gave it up. And she's like, okay, here, if he gave it up, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, because he must have known.
Yeah,
which does definitely reaffirm. I mean, that was the moment, too, where I was like, okay. Because, I mean, we've all known from the last one that he saw the way to win.
Yeah.
So he must have made that decision he made based on the fact that was the only thing he had to do that for them to win. So I thought that was neat when as soon as he told her that, and she was like, oh, okay, well, here you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was the scene where they were explaining about these, which is what the Russo brothers or whatever, and the things I'm reading now, it's about the going back into the past creates alternate universes. It doesn't change your past. It creates an alternate universe.
Look, I realize I'm not a smart man, okay? My brain compared to a lot of people's is, not as high functioning, but every time I try to think about it, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the explanation is that they're giving. That's what she was saying. Like when she was showing the thing with the little swooshies.
But then they're talking about like at the end, like she talks about it's splitting off, and then because she had taken out the time stone, and then Bruce puts it back, and the little stream goes away. He's like, unless we take it and put it back right where we found it, exactly.
Right, because then but if it hadn't come back to that spot, what she is saying is that it wouldn't have changed the future in their current line would continue the same.
But another would have splintered off.
It would have splintered off, and there would have been an alternate universe created. That's what their explanation is.
Okay, so if Steve had not gone back and put him back, we would have had multiple splintered realities.
There would have been all
but
kinds of
the main one still would have been the same.
Would have been the same.
I don't believe the main one still been the same. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. But that's what their explanation is. That's why they're saying that it's not like all the movies. There's no butterfly effect, because what they're saying is time is not a straight line.
Bullshit.
That's what they're trying to say, is that time is not a straight line. It's cyclic. It's all like frequencies, like waves, and it's physics, basically, is what they're trying to say.
Exactly. Give me a physicist. I want a known physicist to tell me why this movie makes sense.
It's just, they're doing what all comics do with time travel and all these things.
Making their own rules.
They're making their own rules, and they're creating alternate universes. Or universities, I guess is how you...
Universi.
It's universities.
I know, I was just being funny.
Anyway, but that was the scene where they first start to explain the whole time travel conundrum.
Okay, so we have that scene. So the next part is the mind.
So bottom line is they go to New York to get the time stone,
the Mind Stone, and the Space Stone.
And the cube, basically. Right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Those are the three things that are in New York at that time. Uh-huh. So one they have to get, which we just talked about. One they have to get the staff, Loki's staff.
That's what I was about to talk about,
and
was the Mind
Stone.
Stone.
Is the cube. That is hidden in S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
Okay.
So the staff, I love that, man. When Cap got on the elevator... You know, that elevator scene in Winter Soldier is one of my favorites ever in the entire MCU. And I was like, oh my God, kick his ass. Say the line and kick ass. But he didn't. He was like, Hail Hydra. And he walked out with a big old smile on his face, which, again, was hilarious. And again, another nod to a comic book reference not that so long ago, Secret Empire, where Steve Rogers in an alternate reality was actually a Hydra agent. And whatever. So I'm sure that was a little Easter egg for that as well. But I would have loved to see him kick ass in the elevator again, is what it was. But then going back to those little nods throughout the entire... I had seen Winter Soldier. Anyone who had seen Winter Soldier and saw the elevator scene was expecting the elevator scene, It goes back to the film. It's all a payoff. And then, of course, Robert Redford in there, too.
Yeah.
Of course, the payoff, the fact they had him come back, which I thought was awesome.
And so many of that.
Yeah. So many of those little cameos. Yeah. I mean, even like, Jasper, the guy who played Jasper, guy who played Crossbones, they were all, there and stuff like that. And then Cap runs into himself, who he thinks he's actually Loki, and he gets out of it by letting Cap know Bucky's alive, catches him off guard, and is able to get the staff. Then we switch over to the cube where Tony and Ant-Man have to try to do that. And the part of that scene that, is going to stick out the most to me is Loki.
Right.
He gets the cube and he gets away. So I'm trying to think how that all works out.
It doesn't. That's the whole thing. It doesn't matter. Apparently, it doesn't matter because there are so many things that happen in that time, in that scene, in that whole, not just with Loki, all of those things. Like Cap fighting himself. The whole thing with Loki getting the cube and getting away. All of those things essentially so many things would have changed in the future. But it doesn't matter because Cap puts the stones back.
Well, okay, that's what I'm saying. So Cap put the stone back in 1970. Okay, so that means the events of 2012 still played out as they did because again, you still had Tony and Ant-Man there causing trouble.
No, that never happened.
How could it never happen?
Apparently, it never happened.
So you're saying putting all these cubes back exactly where they were erased all the stuff they did in the time travel.
That is what they're saying.
That's bullshit.
That is what they're saying.
No, because then that means that all the events of Infinity War still take... If they don't go back in time, they can't fix it to where Cap is allowed to go back and put the time stones back.
Everything happened. That's what they're saying is that none of those things remained permanent because they put the stones back exactly where they found them. If Cap actually put them all back where they went, like where he took them from, then everything else progressed exactly like it did in the films. Nothing else changed. That's what they're saying. That is what they are trying.
Doesn't make any sense.
Well, that is what they are saying. They're saying as long as the stones got put back in the exact same place that they got taken from, nothing that they did
in the time
traveling made
they had to do that in order to get the stones, to do the snap, to then return the stones.
Right, but they did that all in the present. That was all them in the present doing that, not in the past.
They had to go back to the past to get back to the present.
Right, but what they did in the past, because when they went back to the past...
I'm thinking about, I'm thinking about it in Back to the Future
You are.
mode, which
You are. That's what
Back to the Future Part 2, Marty McFly had to avoid himself, when he was playing Johnny Be Good from the first film.
They explain in the movie several times they don't want you to think it like that because that's not how it plays
Because it makes sense is what it, because we've been trained to think that way for freaking how many years?
Well, exactly. And that's why they took 2 different times in the movie to say it's not like that.
If anybody has a physicist on hand, or has like the number.
They're not saying that that's what would happen in real time. They're not trying to say that in real life.
Exactly.
If there was time
that's what I want to know. I want to know that it's real. I want to know, yes. I want somebody who's an expert in quantum physics to tell me, yes, this is how it happens.
These are comic books. It doesn't have to be real. None of this shit is real.
No. I'm trying to fill in the plot holes, okay? That's what I'm trying to do.
But that's the thing, is if you go based on what they are trying to say to you, then that isn't a plot hole.
So basically we're saying, we just made this shit up and, it's not supposed to make sense.
That's the only reason the other kind of time travel stuff makes sense to us is because that's what we've been trained to believe. Time travel's not real anyway.
No. But obviously it's not real.
No one knows what would happen.
It makes sense. Okay.
But no one knows what would really happen because no one does it. It can't happen. They offered you an explanation in their terms. They said in our film, they explained it in 2 separate places to try to hammer it in, even though they didn't explain it very well.
Horrible hammer job.
They did it in 2 separate...
Next time use Mjolnir.
They did it in 2 separate places to make sure that you understand time travel in their film is not like it is in Back to the Future.
It doesn't make sense.
Like 12
you mean
other
it doesn't
films.
Make sense?
Whatever, Sean. I'm just saying. So quit with all that because they try to explain it's not like that.
We got half the list to go, and I got some stuff to talk about still without this. So
go right ahead.
Okay, so let's knock that out. Going to New Jersey, 1970. Forget about the whole time travel thing. Actually, no, let's not. I want to talk about this just for one more sec here. So Cap returns the Space Stone to the Vault and Shield, okay? But guess what? It was a cube when they took it out, okay? Now it's a stone. How's he going to turn it from a stone into a cube to, make it sense?
I don't know.
Exactly. Okay, so enough about that. Tony gets to meet his dad. What do you think about that moment?
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite parts, too.
Yeah. It had one of my favorite lines. One thing, again, the reason why I loved Infinity War so much is the dialogue. I thought the dialogue was so great. And some of those, nuggets of wisdom, I guess. And there's 2 nuggets of wisdom that I took from this film. One line. One of them was, Tony, was it Tony's line where he's like, no amount of money ever, bought an ounce of time, which, goes to say, spend time with the ones you love. Don't work all the time. Money can't buy you happiness, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And then the other one, which, we'll get to here in a sec with Asgard, was, his mom, Renee Russo, saying that we all fail at who we were supposed to be. All we can do is try to be the best of who we are, something like that. Yeah, something like that, which I thought was a really good line. Yeah. And those 2 lines I really like.
I really like the scene with Tony and his dad because Tony always has such mixed feelings about his dad.
He very much resented his dad at the beginning of the MCU.
Right, like he loved him, but he had a lot of mixed emotions. Like he always adored, he loved his mom. Mm-hmm. But he was never as not that he wasn't attached to his dad, but he had a lot of mixed feelings about his dad. And so I felt like him getting to go back and talk to his dad right at that moment too,
when he was about to have a kid.
He was about to be born, to get to talk to his dad basically and see how his dad was feeling about his upcoming birth, and how he was feeling about being a dad, and then just being able to share with him his wisdom that he's learned in him finally being a dad. I thought it was really cute. And then Jarvis popped up there too.
And Jarvis, and that's what I thought. I leaned over to JR when we saw it the second time, and I was like, "Did you ever see Agent Carter the series?" He's like, "No," and I was like, "Well, that's Jarvis from the series,
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you have the TV shows, you have Agent Carter and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and even the Netflix shows that are supposed to be in the MCU, but a lot of times they don't cross-pollinate, I guess is a word I would say. But this is the first time we're like, oh my God, that's Jarvis from Agent Carter. Yeah. So Agent Carter is officially in there,
Yeah.
It's one of those things where the Netflix, they'll reference the stuff from the movies, but it's not vice versa. Same thing with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So stuff like that. But and then of course Steve got to see Peggy.
Yeah.
She's probably in her 50s because it's 70s, right? So she was probably around 50 in that age.
You think?
Well, because she was 1945, she was probably in her 20s. You jump ahead about almost 25 to 30 years. I mean,
25 years.
Yeah.
She's probably in her mid-40s.
Yeah, exactly. And I was telling, I think I told you this, or I told JR this, like that moment when I first saw it, I thought he was going to get caught or she was going to see him or something. So that moment where the first time I saw it, the tension made it last for so long. And then I saw it a second time, I'm like, oh, it didn't last that long, did it?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it was just the tension of that, the dramatic of the first moment actually did. But again, it's one of those things that hammers back to, they did this several times with, him still having the compass and, that moment as well that he still loves.
Well, they never
Peggy.
in all the films, they never let that go. That he was never, he
never
got over that.
Even though he hooked up with her niece, which that was a thing too.
All you see is him kiss her like one time.
No. Okay, they were, they introduced her when a soldier. They, brought up the relationship or whatever in Civil War.
All you ever know is that they kissed one time. I'm just saying.
They
never imply. They never say if anyone thinking of.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, well, Infinity War was happening or whatever. He was in secret. I feel like they would have had meetups. She would have met him somewhere.
You don't know that. You're guessing.
I am guessing. I'm trying to hope for my man that got a piece here. Okay, because Captain America cannot die a virgin.
I'm just saying that they never ever say that went any further than that.
So you're saying they just kissed and that was it?
I'm just saying
that's so disappointing.
They both are very busy people. I'm just saying.
I want Captain America to get a piece.
Whatever. You are bringing your own emotions into this.
Of course, we all bring our emotions. It's called life.
The movie, throughout the films, they hammer in repeatedly that he never got
That's
over Peggy.
tried. That's fine.
They never said anything more about him and Sharon other than the kiss. So don't jump to conclusions.
I think she just got dusted.
Whatever.
Anyway. Okay, so hammered that in. So let's jump to Asgard, 2013. Rocket and Thor. They're showing up during the events of Thor, The Dark World. And, Rocket sneaks into Natalie Portman, Jane Foster's room, which I know other people that, were in that made cameos or whatever. I don't like Thor: The Dark World, so I haven't seen it enough. But I feel like the scene where she woke up and got out of bed, that was an actual scene, and they didn't actually get Natalie Portman to come back and shoot additional stuff.
Oh, I have no idea.
I feel like that's what, because everyone else I felt like they did that, but I know Natalie Portman, in time has kind of had resentment for some of that. So I feel like that was just a scene that they did, and they just add Rocket in there.
I have no idea.
That's my third thought.
I think I've only watched that film once.
I mean, you obviously had to get Renee Russo back to shoot those additional stuff, which is fine, But if Natalie Portman, like I said, I feel like some of the comments she's made about her involvement since then made it be like they couldn't get her to come back, and they just had this little scene. But
I mean, it's very possible. Like you said, I haven't seen that film enough to know. I don't. I honestly think I only saw it once.
I saw it twice, and that was just because I had to rewatch it for, Infinity War stuff.
I don't think I did, even, because I just don't really care for it.
Yeah, neither do I. But anyway, they're near the Thor with his mom. That was good stuff. Like I said, the nuggets of wisdom and the stuff she talked about, that was really cool. And, of course, he called his hammer back. Mjolnir, which, okay, that can be explained, of course, because we saw Cap take the hammer when he went to go and return the Infinity Stones. So, needless to say, he probably returned the hammer to its rightful time when he did that. Because, at this point, when he goes back in time to do the stones, you got to think he's loaded up on pin particles to where he can, jump as much as he wants through time. Is what it is.
I mean, hopefully.
Yeah, which would make an awesome series.
Anyway.
Captain America 4, yeah, and 5 and 6. That'd be awesome. But anyway, so there's that. And then we go to Morag 2014, where Rhodey and Nebula have to take out Star-Lord.
I love that scene when he's dancing down there, and you hear it from the other side. Because in the movie Guardians, you only heard what was happening in his head. Yeah. You didn't hear him actually singing with his headphones on. And so I thought that was hilarious when they were watching it, and he was just watching Rhodey watch him, and this is the guy. Seriously?
Yeah, this is the guy, right? And it was funny too. I always like to bring this up too. Was the morning we were going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy. We're going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy that evening, and I'm opening the store. And when I go in the store, I'm by myself, so usually I have my headphones on, and of course, I sing. Or maybe I do a little dancing or whatever, while I'm working. So I go to the movie that night, and what does this character do? Have his headphones on, singing and dancing while he's working, and I'm like, I like this guy.
Yeah, you're just trying to hammer in here how you feel like you are Star-Lord.
Oh, please. If I'm anybody in the MCU, I'm obviously Star-Lord. Albert even confirmed it.
No, you definitely are.
Exactly. Exactly. So, but this is where things start to go a little awry, because 2014 Nebula and 2023 Nebula start to share a little network, and 2014 Thanos catches on.
Basically, this is where the whole thing goes to shit.
Exactly.
The plan completely falls apart.
It was the shared network of the nebulas that kind of everything went to shit.
Yes.
And Rhodey got back the Power Stone, but Nebula got caught.
Yes.
Is what it is. And that's kind of where we leave them out from there. So let's jump to Vormir with Black Widow and Hawkeye. One of them had to go. One of them had to be the sacrifice.
I mean, it totally made sense for it to be Natasha.
Uh-huh.
Because Clint had a family, and the whole purpose of this whole thing was to bring everyone back.
That's Clint's mission, was to bring his family back.
Right, and so for him to sacrifice himself then didn't make any sense.
And Natasha, one of the main reasons she wanted to bring back was Clint's family as well.
So I mean, I think for her, it was like when I went into that scene, I was like, it's a no-brainer. It has to be Nat. It has to be Nat.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense for it to be Clint in the story. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wasn't surprised at all that that's the conclusion she came to, because I was like, of course she would choose it to be her.
And again, it's one of those things where, like, I didn't feel it. Like, I didn't feel it as much as, like, any of the other deaths or anything like else in the film.
I didn't either.
And I felt really weird about that, I guess. The fact that we've been with this character for so long, and, Scarlett Johansson does do a good job with the character.
But I don't think you ever get emotionally involved with her, because she's kind of a distant character. Like, I think it's because of the way her character is, because her character doesn't form attachments, and because she's never been like, she's there and everyone likes her character, but she isn't one that you become. Nobody's really emotionally attached to her.
Well, there are, but that goes to my point. That next point I was going to say is when they actually come back to the present, and they look over and see Natalie's gone. Obviously Hawkeye had the connection with her, but the other two people they focus on about their reactions is Hulk and Cap,
right,
who had the two closest connections to her besides Hawkeye.
Right. Well, I didn't mean that other people in the film don't. I'm saying the audience. The audience never had the emotional attachment to her. I don't think that they had with other characters. I think the MCU worked a lot harder to get the people, the fans, emotionally attached to the other characters. I don't think.
Do you think it's because of the character, like the way, again, like you said, the way the character is portrayed or the way she acts? Like, you can't connect to her like you can like Captain America.
Right. I think that's a lot of it. I think it's just the way that her character, her character's personality or whatever, her background, her history, her story. It isn't. I mean, I feel like a lot of the other characters, there's something you can, as a person, you can connect to with them. I don't feel like Nat has a lot of that, and I think also, though, the reason that I wasn't necessarily like that scene wasn't emotionally charged for me in a crying sense, is I was expecting it. I was like, yeah, it has to be her. It made logical sense.
Yeah, two of them go, one of them's not going to make it out.
Yeah, like as soon as I knew that they were going, I was like, well, yeah, Nat's going to be the one that doesn't come back, duh.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just kind of one of those things where I was like, okay, yeah.
Given the fact that the film started with Hawkeye 2 and losing his family, I felt like he was a very big connective tissue in this film as far as his journey. He was fighting for his family the whole time, and I think he played a very dominant role in the film. To where he goes through the journey, I guess is what I'm saying. He was more front and center compared to other films. Obviously, he wasn't Infinity War at all.
Right, right. No,
because he had a family he's fighting for, which, again, is something we can all relate to, I think.
Exactly. I think that's a thing. And I think that's one of the reasons, too, especially once they introduced Hawkeye's family. Because I think Hawkeye was the same way as Nat in the other movies. Like, I didn't have any kind of attachment to that character.
In Avengers.
Until you met his family. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, wow. Like, yeah.
It totally changes your perception of him.
It does. And it's one of the things that I think helped people have that connection with him. Because, like I said, like, you connect with characters on screen when you have something in common with them. When you understand,
like Star-Lord.
Right, like when you understand their journey, when there's something that they're going through that you're like, I can relate to that. I mean, not just in Marvel movies, in all movies.
Oh yeah, hands down, of course, right, yes.
I think that is one thing that they did to Hawkeye in that, bringing his family into it made him relatable. Where I don't think Nat ever really had anything about her that was overly relatable. For me. I mean, that's my opinion.
I got you. Okay, makes sense. Okay, so you think? Okay, so we know they're working on a Black Widow film. Mm-hmm. We thinking that it's going to be a prequel.
I don't know what the heck it's got. I mean, I read something that said that the Russo brothers have said that the Soul Stone does not work like the way people are theorizing.
Yeah, so like Keely said to us, which I never even thought about until she talked about when Cap, he absolutely has to return the Soul Stone to Vormir. Does he get his soul back? which I think the Red Skull says, no, you don't get.
And the Russo brothers I read an article. Did you share an article?
It might have been the one last night.
Yeah, I actually read the article.
I skimmed through it.
You shared that shit and you never.
I skimmed it.
I actually read the article. And they do talk in that about how when he returned it, he did not get her back. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, just like you can't return the Soul Stone and get Gamora back or whatever, But then they were talking about too about how like their souls are kind of in this like alternate reality inside the stone, kind of. Yeah, that's like when Thanos saw baby Gamora. After he snapped his fingers, he was like kind of inside that pocket dimension or something. I don't know, but anyway, okay. So they get back and we get to the glove now. Okay, the gauntlet was made by who were they? Dwarfs that live next to a star. Okay,
I can't remember what it's called. Something crazy.
Obviously, there had to be something very special about the gauntlet to forge it to hold the Infinity Stones. Okay. We take these Infinity Stones and put them in Tony's glove. What did Tony do to that glove to make it as, containable as the gauntlet?
Here's the thing that I don't... Because, so when Thanos' injuries, the burned up arm and his head, that wasn't caused by the initial snap, right? Or was it?
It was caused by, the power of it, the ripple effect.
But it was. Because he says when they go back to try to get the stones back from him, and they're looking at his damaged body, he says that happened when he destroyed the stones. Okay,
but when you go back, look at the end of Infinity War.
Right, but it's vague. You can't really see it. No,
you can totally see it in his arm. His arm, and then a little bit in his neck. You can see it. I've watched it. I've gone back and I've watched it.
So maybe the point is...
So the second time he snapped to destroy him, it went up to his face.
Okay, so maybe the takeaway was that they created that gauntlet and it didn't even work. It didn't even matter. It still couldn't contain the power. So at this point, who cares?
Yeah, it was going to damage people no matter what. It was going to
damage them no matter what.
But it was better than, it would have been absolute death without it, I guess.
Right.
So I'm just saying, how did Tony make something that, that contains the stones like the gauntlet?
But it didn't, is my point.
It didn't, but again, if it was just a regular robotic hand or whatever, it definitely would have killed whoever.
But it was Hulk. Yeah. That was the point. I think that's why they said it had to be Hulk. Because what I'm saying is I think that they're just trying to say that the gauntlet didn't end up in the end making a difference. Because it still hurt Thanos, it still hurt Hulk. Mm-hmm. No matter what it's in, it was going to cause that damage.
Yeah.
I mean, Hulk's arm looked exactly the same,
Okay.
After he
and so then talking about that for a sec, first off, I was really disappointed. We got Banner's mind and Hulk's body, which is cool, but we didn't get one Hulk smash, good fight scene in the whole film.
No.
Very disappointed. Very disappointed, especially when the big battle came down, Bruce or Hulk was injured, so you didn't even see him. Mm-mm. You didn't even see him throughout the whole sequence.
No.
Very disappointed in that. So, but a permanently, which makes me think about going forward with that character. What's going to happen to him now? Because he was, he in the funeral, he had the sling and he was all messed up. I'm like, what's that going to do to him? What are they going to do with that?
Who knows?
I don't know. So, all right. So he snaps his finger and they open the doors and the birds are singing and Hawkeye's
phone rings.
It's his wife. Okay.
So they undid the snap.
And then 2014 Thanos comes through and blows the place down. Man, he literally just blows it all to hell.
Yeah.
To say the least. And we get to this part here where 2014 Nebula's gonna go find the stones, and Thanos is just sitting there waiting because he knows what's coming. He knows it's the Avengers, and he has the conversation or has the monologue about, I thought, taking away half of humanity would take the other half to, be better and to be thankful for what they have. But he's like, no, I was wrong.
So ultimately, this is exactly what I said after Infinity War. Because I was remember after Infinity War, I was talking about how, really, Thanos' plan makes total sense.
Uh-huh.
From a biological perspective, the planet, I would assume, say the universe, but going on Earth-wise, we are greatly overpopulated. The best thing for our planet would be to reduce the number of people on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it completely makes sense from a longevity, sustainability perspective.
What he should have done instead was make people infertile.
We don't want to stop reproduction.
We don't want to stop reproduction, but let's say, it's okay, I totally agree the world's overpopulated, but I don't want to kill all the people we already have.
That's the point. That's what I'm saying. What he did was he was looking at it from a completely biological perspective, from a scientific perspective, not from an emotional perspective. So what he realizes now, going back, is that's what he missed. He missed the fact that
the emotional,
that people would not move past it. That emotionally they couldn't move on.
Forget about the people they lost.
Right. And even though it must not be that all over the galaxy, because he talks repeatedly about Gamora's planet in the other films and how when he reduced half the population on her planet, they're thriving now.
I feel like it was a little different, though. It was like, just a cold-blooded murder, where this was like, what I want to say, like an apocalypse, or what are they?
I don't know.
An ascension, whatever the Bible calls it.
Who knows? But whatever. Except for allegedly what he did on Gamora's planet, he's done on other planets. But maybe the difference was, and I'm totally guessing here, maybe then he didn't break family units in pieces. Maybe he just killed off into like half whole families. Where in this case, because it was totally randomized, many families were completely cut in pieces.
Well, that makes sense. Like, look at Gamora. She couldn't get over, the fact that her mother was killed.
Right, exactly.
Why she always held that resentment towards Thanos.
So maybe when he had gone and done this on other planets, because it wasn't randomized killing, he took half the planet.
He tried to be fair.
But maybe he took families and put like, okay, your family goes on this side, your family goes on that side, kill this side, not that
kill
side.
that family, not that one.
I feel like it'd be easier for people to move on if family units weren't cut in pieces. Like, sure, you miss your friends, but it's different when it's your family. I feel like it'd be easier for people to move on and their planets to end up developing and thriving again if entire families. It's like, for example, and I'm not trying to be
Here we go.
But like on Earth, say if something like this happened, and instead of cutting half the people on Earth in half, they just said, okay, we're just going to destroy all of Asia. Period. Asia, no more people on Asia.
That would solve population problem.
Anyway, but what I'm saying is...
I love you, Asia.
How would we be able to move on from that? Yeah.
Because we're in North America.
Exactly, because we're not in Asia.
We don't know anybody in Asia.
So that's my point. Like, I feel like it's just look at previous times in history when we've had mass genocides, like the Holocaust. Sure, it makes me sad. I look back at the Holocaust. I can't even. I've been to the Holocaust.
Yeah.
I can't emotionally deal with that. But it's not a part of my everyday life. It's not like every day I look around and I'm impacted by that loss.
You know someone who was in the Holocaust. You don't.
Right. No, I know people whose families were affected by it, sure. But it's not me. It doesn't affect me personally. So, anyway.
The randomization affected everyone. Which is why they didn't move on.
And that's why they didn't move on. So he's seeing that now that, there was a flaw in his plan. He didn't take into account people's ties. Because, and look at his life. He never loved anyone but Gamora.
Yeah, it's true.
And he was still willing to give her up because he's a douche. So, I'm just saying, I think that little monologue there kind of it played into what I had said from the beginning after Infinity War. I was like, well, yeah, that's why I think he's such a good villain, is because you understand his point.
His point of view,
yeah, you understand where he's coming from, what he's ultimately trying to do.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Okay.
That was a long-winded
but where I was going with is the fact that instead of, he was going to go down and wipe everyone out pretty much now.
Yeah.
To take everyone. Because basically if he was going to leave anyone alive, someone was going to be there to try to, fight against him.
Right.
I guess is what you said. So which leaves to Tony, Steve, and Thor.
Just all the fighting.
Versus Thanos. All the fighting. The build up, the phenomenal nerdgasm that is this last part of this film, of course. But you have the big three. Thor, Captain America, Iron Man. Those are the big three in the MCU. There's no really debating that, So it was them, and they're the big three in the Marvel Comics universe too, as well. They're the three. The DC Comics has Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. They're the main three. And then Marvel, the big three are Thor, Captain America, and Tony. That's just how it is.
So the ultimate takeaway from all this fighting sequence, when Cap takes the hammer.
Yes, Cap takes the hammer, of course. I was getting it. And honestly, that is my favorite part of the whole film.
I love, too, as soon as it happens when Thor's like, I knew it!
I knew it! Yes, exactly.
Because you go back to...
Again, going back to previous films, When
it,
little
wiggles,
nods. Exactly. It wiggles a little bit, of course. And, yeah, exactly. It's great. It's just... And once he gets that hammer, he's using the hammer in conjunction with his shield, and it's just kicking the crap out of Thanos till Thanos finally gets mad enough. But here's the takeaway, too, is... You had the three powerhouses, really, of, the Marvel Universe. And even without the Infinity Stones, Thanos was still winning, just lets you know how big of a badass he really is.
Oh, yeah.
And, going back to, say, the Infinity War, when people are debating, if he would have whooped Hulk's ass as bad if he didn't have the Power Stone helping him, be like, yeah, he probably would have. Exactly. Yeah. He probably would have still. So, but yeah, I mean, and this is the part that I want to get, put this as, my Facebook banner, is the shot where, he's fighting Cap. Cap goes down, and he gets him, and he's injured. He's got his leg or whatever, and, Thanos calls down his army. He's got the army at his back, and Captain America all just wounded, like he's about to just die any second now. He stands up, he straps on his shield, even though it's broke, and you see there's a shot of him on one side and the entire army on the other, and it's like, that's fucking Captain America, okay? He doesn't care about the odds. He's going to fight until he dies, which he would have died, really.
Yes, he would have died.
Horribly death is what would have happened. But that's why I love the guy so much, okay? Yeah. But luckily, that didn't happen because little holes started to open.
And everyone came back.
Well,
not everyone.
Who didn't come back?
Vision.
Oh, yes, Vision. We'll get to them in a little bit. Yes, too. But yes, everyone came back, of course. And the first people you see is Black Panther, which I think a lot of people cheered most at.
Well, and Shuri, and I always forget her name.
Okoye. Yes, Okoye. Which you've seen Okoye. We've seen Okoye, throughout the film, of course, in little pieces.
But now she comes back with T'Challa.
Because when they came back, they were in Wakanda. It's probably where they bumped away. Like when you saw the Guardians and Doctor Strange.
Yeah, they all came back from Titan. Everyone appeared where they were when they dusted.
Exactly, yeah. So then, of course, they brought with them the Wakandan army. They brought the Asgardians. Who else came back? There was probably another third army of good guys that came. Everyone came back, and Thanos had his dogs and the Chitauri and his minions and stuff like that. And it's just all out battle, and Hawkeye still got the gauntlet or the stones. Like, what am I supposed to do with it? Like, you got this guy with a bow and arrow, and in the middle of this field, like, what am I doing? Oh my god, And what is it? Black Panther takes it, which is cool, of course.
Yeah, they passed it around a lot.
They passed it. I think that was the whole gag, is they passed it around to everyone, of course. And eventually, there's that one part there where Thanos, who's actually losing to Scarlet Witch, because she's pissed off, and she's a super powerful character, which I hope they continue to explore that, because she gets more and more powerful. But anyway, and he starts to be like, you know what? Just fire on everyone. Thanos is like, fire down on everyone. There's the only way to stop him is to kill.
Their people, whatever.
Exactly. Just start killing everyone, of course, and stuff like that, and which stops it until Captain Marvel comes in. And that it's one of the things where after you watch Captain Marvel, you're like, well, Captain Marvel's going to come in, defeat Thanos like that, and then the movie's going to be over. But no, the thing is they explained it too at the beginning after that 5 years, where she's like, yeah, I'm in other parts of the universe. I'm not around Earth because other parts of the universe, need my help. It was their excuse for keeping her out of the movie for so long, to making it harder for our heroes, which we've grown attached to.
Right.
So to speak. So there was that. So she came in, and even then, again, she was fighting Thanos, and Thanos had to use some Power Stone to fight her back, even with that too. There was somewhere, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yes, the Peter Tony, the moment they saw each other again. That was a great moment because Tony had that reference of in his kitchen he had the picture of Peter, and seeing Peter as he was very responsible for Peter, in like Homecoming, Infinity War. He gave Peter a suit. He's brought him into the mix.
He definitely had emotionally attached. He was attached. He was attached to him for sure.
Yeah. So seeing that,
Well, I love too when he comes back and he starts explaining to Tony like what happened. Titan, like, it's hilarious.
Yes, of course.
It
was
cute.
Totally hilarious. That was a good emotional moment, of course, which I'm going to talk about more about that in just a few minutes too. But of course, the scene which was great, in my perspective, was the MCU ladies.
Yeah.
You had that shot of all the MCU heroes, and it goes back to, I forget what it was. I think it was either Thor Ragnarok, perhaps, I think was what it was, where there's this story that all the female actresses in the MCU kind of cornered Kevin Feige, and he's like, hey, when are we going to get like a girl movie? Like a female Avengers kind of going on. And I think that was Feige's way of giving us that moment. But it also makes you realize how many great female characters there are.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you had What's her face? The Asgard one. I lost her name.
Valkyrie?
Valkyrie, like on the
horse.
Unicorn or
on
whatever,
the horse.
like running
yes.
all over the
and then,
place.
of course, you had Pepper Potts in there with the suit.
Does she have a name, her, in the suit, or is that
I
totally
don't think so.
movies?
So with that, after Norman Osborn took control of S.H.I.E.L.D., Tony went into hiding, and he got a message to Pepper, be like, hey, I made this suit for you to protect you in case I can't. So that's why he had that suit built for her, kind of referencing.
I mean, he
that.
alludes to it several times in the film that she never wears anything.
Well, too, and also, again, you didn't see Iron Man 3. In Iron Man 3, their house was being attacked, and he had a protocol to where the suit would go to her to help protect her. I guess they'll go, going back to that too. So she got her own iron suit, which Al, I guess, loved the fact there was a shot with her and her suit and Tony in his suit fighting back to back. He really loved that shot.
Yeah.
He said too.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was cool seeing.
But you had the girl power, in there too, and Captain Marvel leading the charge, of course. And then the scene that I really liked too as a Guardians fan was Peter seeing Gamora, only it wasn't his Gamora.
Right.
So she kicked him in the groin.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah.
Of course. And he's down on the ground, and Gamora's like, this is him? She was like, it was either him or a tree.
Yeah. Well, and I think this leads to what we've kind of talked a little bit about too between ourselves is with the next Guardian movies. Like, where are they going to go?
Yeah, what are they going to do?
Because Gamora is... I mean, they hint that that past Gamora stays in the present.
I'm not going to talk about time travel. I'm not going to talk about time travel. I'm not going to talk about time travel.
The current timeline still has a Gamora in it, but it's the Gamora from 2014.
Yes.
So that Gamora who's in our current timeline didn't
fall in love with Peter.
Right, and so she didn't have that change. I mean, she obviously was already...
She's a good person, but yeah.
Right, she already was obviously feeling torn about what Thanos was doing, even in 2014, but she hadn't turned yet. So she didn't have that her character arc, her journey didn't happen. So where she is in the current timeline now, she hasn't had that. She
doesn't have the connections to Star-Lord, Drax, Groot. Right, yeah, exactly.
Right. And she may be a good person, but she's not quite the person that she was.
Exactly.
Where, I mean, really, by the last Guardians movie, I mean, she was the moral compass of the group.
Oh, yeah.
And now she's not anymore. And I'm interested to see how
it's going to be. I think they're going to catch up with her, of course, in the next Guardians film.
I'm curious to see how Nebula's going to fit in. Like, how's she going to fit in with the Guardians? I mean, I'm assuming she's going to stay one of the Guardians now. I don't know. I mean, unless the next... I mean, I don't know. I can't...
I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute, because I got some more thoughts about that, but that was it. Captain Marvel, right? We already talked about that. So let's get to the meat of it all. Thanos, kicks Captain Marvel away. Tony sees that Thanos is about to put on the glove, and he looks over at Doctor Strange. And I love that. And Strange, holds up the finger, the one. Because a couple minutes beforehand, he was like, so, is this the one where we win? He's like, I can't tell you if this is the one where we win, because then, we won't be the one where we win.
Well, he says, I can't tell you what happens, because if I tell you what happens, then it won't happen that way.
Yeah.
So it's not that
Exactly. So
he hints to Tony, this is the moment.
This exactly. He gives up the one finger, the one in the 4 million.
So it explains why he saved Tony in Infinity War. It explains why he gave up the Time Stone. It explains everything was because Tony had to die.
Tony had to do this.
He had to do this.
So he grabs Thanos and is able to slip the stones away. And I love that he's like, was it Thanos before? And he was like, I am what is it? Inevitable. And then of course Tony goes, I am Iron Man. You're going back to, of course, the first Iron Man movie at the end where he says, I am Iron Man. Again, the callbacks. The callbacks is what it's all about. So he snaps, he dusts away Thanos from 2014, which, of course, gets me another time travel.
Don't even try.
I'm trying not to. That's a big one, though, for me.
I know. Well, that's the one that I said really got me. He basically, this current time, the current timeline now, Thanos, they were erased in 2014. So how did any of this happen? According to them, it didn't work that way. It just created an alternate. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So anyway, snaps. But the main takeaway is, of course, Tony being a mere mortal, not a Hulk, not a Thanos.
Right. He couldn't
survive it. Exactly. And they had the teardrop. You had Rhodey coming up, his best friend. You had Peter coming up, kind of, his protege. And then, of course, you had his wife.
But I think that was the big moment, was when Pepper basically said to him, it's okay.
Yeah, it's time. You did it.
We're safe now. You did it.
Yeah.
just kind of so Tony would, like, she knew what to say to him.
Yeah, like she kind of pushed Peter out of the way a little bit too there.
Right.
It's like, no, let me do this.
Yeah, because she knew what to say to make him realize this was the right thing. Like, because she's
like, I understand it, I understand your sacrifice.
And especially because what was holding Tony back from even getting involved at all in this was Pepper and Morgan.
Uh-huh.
And so for her to say to him, we're going to be fine. You did, then I think that was what kind of gave him the, where he's like, okay, this obviously is not what I wanted. I wanted to be here with you and with Morgan, but this, now he's like, okay, I can go now.
Exactly.
I can be at peace.
Uh-huh.
But I think Pepper was the one, it was what she said. And I can't remember it was like exactly what the words were she said, but it was like exactly what he needed to hear.
Exactly. So then we get to cry time. For me, cry time. So the first part is this scene here where he's dying. I'm like, okay, I'm sad or whatever. The second time
when Pepper started crying is when I started crying.
Okay, so so what happened to me, like you said, it's relatability. Okay, the part later on with his daughter and Jon Favreau is what I pictured. Nora sitting there with one of our friends, Bryce or Albert or something like that, and them being at my funeral, and that got me crying. So then I pictured Pepper and Tony, you and me. And so the second time I pictured that, I was like...
Well, that's why I think for me, that's where I started getting emotional was when Pepper was crying. When
yes.
Pepper had said goodbye. She had told him it's okay to go. And then Pepper started crying, and I was like, oh, God.
Yeah, exactly. Because you picture... You can relate to, a husband and wife. You can relate to what it would be like if that was you, of course, in there. So then we jump to the funeral, which I love the way it was done, where, again, the battle was everyone from, all 22 films, and everyone from all 22 films were there. They went through everyone. They went through, the Langs or the Pims, I guess, were there too. You had Hawkeye's family there. You go over and you see everyone else. So which, you probably know, the boy that was standing behind... Scarlet Witch and all them, like by himself.
Yeah, the one who was he was standing in front of Maria.
I didn't know who that was.
Yeah, I didn't know who that was
JR told me who it was. I figured I thought it was. There's a boy in Iron Man 3 who helped Tony in his...
That's who it was supposed to be.
That's who it was. And it was the same actor even, but he looked so different. Why? Because it was 6 years ago and he went through puberty.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know who that kid was. And I was like, oh yeah, it was the same actor. Right. Look it up on IMDb. It's the same actor.
Well, that's why I didn't understand it, because I didn't see Iron Man.
Exactly. So yeah, so they go through all that. And at the very end, you go from Captain Marvel and then you go to Nick Fury.
Yeah.
Which I'm curious, the fact that, I'll talk about Nick Fury here in a sec when I get to Spider-Man. So... But that was, and of course, the best part, callback, little thing out in the middle of the water, proof that Tony Stark has a heart, going back to the first Iron Man, something that Pepper gave him that saved his life, in the first Iron Man film. And then, cry time for me. Cry time when Jon Favreau, Happy Hogan, is sitting there with Morgan, and he's like, what do you want? He's like, I want a cheeseburger, which is a callback to the first Iron Man. Right. Tony got off the plane. He wanted a press conference and a cheeseburger. He's like, yeah, your dad liked cheeseburgers, like that. And he's like, you can have all the cheese. I can't even say this. You can have all the cheeseburgers you want. And I'm like, God damn. And that second time, before the first time I was crying. The second time eyes were closed and I was, my head was bobbing and everything. I'm like, God, it's like I was convulsing with tears on the second time.
You were the first time too. You were shaking.
Yes, it was. Because I just picture, Nora and say Bryce sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God.
But then also, I think it's the whole thing knowing that she's not going to grow up not knowing her dad.
Yeah. Again, going back to that first time where he had that message, of something like, because I thought about several times making a message or something like that too, and going back to the 3000.
Yeah,
the
reference. Love you 3000.
Oh yes, it was cry time. It was definitely cry time on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we get to what happens to everyone else. Let's jump into going back to the Guardians and Thor.
So is he supposed to be in the Guardians?
So there was a funny little reference.
I thought Thor, Chris Hemsworth was done with the MCU now.
We don't know. We don't because there's another article. It came out a couple days ago. I forget. I didn't read the article, but it's headline I'll stay with the MCU as long as they want me to. But I didn't read the article, so I don't know who said it or whatever. Because Thor Ragnarok was a big financial success, and he played. Everyone loved him in Infinity War. I don't know how they're going to feel about him after this, the character, the way he was portrayed in this film, but he's still a popular character.
Well, I mean,
still bankable.
Yeah, I mean, Dark World, no one really liked much, but
But he came back with
still,
came back with Ragnarok and Infinity War,
right.
which put his stock up.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, he was awesome in Infinity War.
Exactly. Yeah, people loved him in Infinity War.
I'm just curious how he's going to fit in with the Guardians.
Well, okay, so I love there's a part there where he puts his hand on Star-Lord and he's like, once again, the Asgardians of the Galaxy. There is a comic called Asgardians of the Galaxy where Valkyrie gathers up several other people throughout the MCU to kind of go like a peacekeeping group. It has nothing to do with Star-Lord or, I think maybe Rocket was a part of it too, but again, another reference to the comics. Thor wasn't even part of it, but it was called Asgardians of the Galaxy, which...
I mean, it makes sense now if Thor doesn't want to be the leader of of Asgard for him to hang with Rocket, because he and Rocket, I think, have definitely formed a bond throughout
which is a great bond.
But,
Sweet Rabbit.
A Sweet Rabbit, exactly. I love that bit when they're back together here at the end, when they're like fighting over who's going to be, and then at the end when he's all like, it's you in the face, where he's all like making like the winky eyes and stuff.
And that's the best part. Like, I think they really, realized that one scene in Infinity War between Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth was so great because they both have such comedic talent.
Yeah.
And then playing off each other is so great. So how much Thor's going to be in the next Guardians film or what they're going to go relationship-wise from here on out, I don't know, but you got to think they're going to have one or two more scenes like that coming up in the MCU.
Yeah.
Just in how not only the Infinity War, but how great that scene was in this film.
Yeah.
Too, but that was good. Like Knives. Yeah, let's do Knives.
I mean, the thing is, he can't possibly be a huge part of the Guardians though, because Thor's always all throughout this. He's been kind of a loner.
I think, and that's the thing that was going to do is he's going
to come and go.
They're going to give him a ride to space pretty much, and then he's going to go on his own. Like I think his journey now is to be a hero or
to find out where he belongs now.
Yeah, exactly. And to really going back to he failed to stop Thanos, right. Okay, which was what weighed on him this whole film. He couldn't be the hero that he has the power to be. Mm-hmm. So now I feel like instead of just being a king, he wants to be the hero.
Well, he has to find his purpose again, because even though he lost people as a result, he lost everyone. Mm-hmm. But his weren't as a result of the snap.
Yeah.
So he didn't get anyone back.
That's true.
Everyone else who lost people, they got people back. He didn't get anyone back.
Okay.
Everybody he loved is still gone. Uh-huh. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, Loki's still gone.
Dad,
Idris Elba's character.
Himnal. Yeah, I mean, they're Himnal. His mom, his dad, everyone. They're all gone. So even though the whole purpose of this film was to undo the snap, that's not what Thor's goal wasn't to undo the snap. Thor's goal was revenge for Thanos.
True.
So Thor, now that Thanos is gone, Thor has to figure out who the hell
a new
he
purpose,
is now.
A new mission, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. What is his purpose? What is his goal? His life? Like what is he supposed to do? Because he didn't get any. They always say revenge isn't satisfying.
Yeah.
When it's over, it's.
True revenge. You don't
get anything.
Don't get
Nobody
anybody.
Wins, right.
No. What is not going to bring anybody back?
No, it doesn't exactly. And so I think that's kind of the big takeaway for Thor is he doesn't have a place now.
Yeah.
He doesn't know where he fits or what his purpose is, and he's going to have to try to figure it out.
True enough. Okay, so going back, I totally forgot to add in there, of course, that scene with Hawkeye and Wanda, because again, Vision did not get killed as a result of the snap, so he did not come back. And they had that little mention between the two of them between Natalie, and at first I thought she might have been referencing her brother, but then I was like, it's Vision. It's Vision. Yeah, it was worth it. Their sacrifices were worth it. Mm-hmm. I guess is what they were saying too. But we have the WandaVision series that's coming up on Disney Plus. They're gonna have to explain how they're gonna bring Vision back. So that should be pretty interesting. Maybe
unless it takes place during that period between Civil War
and
Infinity War.
Yeah.
I mean, Wanda and Vision were taking those moments away during that whole period of time.
And that's going back to say...
And that was several years, right? 2 years?
Between Civil War and Infinity War, 2 years, yes.
2 years, yeah.
Yes, so... but again, going back to say, let's say Loki, because Loki's supposed to get his own show too. Okay? He escaped with a cube back in 2012, which... How that affects him going to prison in Asgard and Dark World and all the other stuff is a time travel thing that we're too late in this episode to get into.
If there is an alternate timeline that spun off, I'm just saying.
Anyway, so that basically little thing gave him a little leeway to, hey, he can get his own show now.
Yeah.
Because he didn't die technically in that time frame, but I'm not getting into it. Okay. Anyway, but yes, that accepts that, and Wanda and Vision are on their way too. So. Another shot, of course, happy endings. Hope and Scott with his daughter. Not really much to say about it, but do you think they're gonna make another Ant-Man Wasp?
I don't know.
Because honestly, the second one did okay, but wasn't great.
Yeah, I mean, I like both of those films a lot.
I like the
they
characters.
Definitely weren't the big money makers.
I like the characters. I didn't love the second one. I love the first one more than the second one.
Yeah,
but I want to see more of those characters.
But I liked the second one a lot. Also.
Yeah, I mean, I like those characters, and honestly, I loved how Paul Rudd interacted with the Avengers.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part of these last couple of films, is how he interacted with everyone else in this film and back in Civil War, is what it was too. So I don't know, getting another standalone film for him, if this is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I don't know.
But there's that. Okay, and then Peter. So Peter Parker, he's back. I want to get into some Far From Home, because that's the only surefire one we know is coming on the pipeline with a release date. We're getting it in July. Far From Home. And people are thinking maybe this is like a prequel before Infinity War. Maybe it's before he gets dusted away or something like that. So he goes away for 5 years. He comes back obviously the same age. He goes back to high school. Ned's there. It's been 5 years. So we're assuming then means
Ned must have been dusted
Ned
too.
must have been dusted too. So let's go to Far From Home trailer. Okay? MJ's still there. Flash is still there. Several other people still. You tell me all of them got dusted for 5 years?
It must be a prequel.
I'm the more plus the fact that, I mean, obviously he had the original Spider-Man costume, which he wouldn't wear. But if I'm Peter Parker, my mentor, who may be this awesome goldish suit, is awesome. Why would I not be wearing that instead to honor him, if anything else? So that's, again, going back to that. But I go back to Nick Fury. He was like kind of that last person you saw in the funeral scene. And to him, Nick Fury, he's always thinking. He's always got a plan, right? Iron Man's gone, okay? Who could be the next smart guy on the block? Peter Parker. Which is why he busts into his room on the trailer. He's like, Peter Parker, we need to talk. So then that makes me think, okay, maybe it's afterwards. So
it's hard to tell.
We don't know.
I mean, it's unlikely that
it's a prequel. I think it's unlikely it's a prequel, honestly.
No,
but
I'm saying it's unlikely that all of Peter's friends were dusted.
That's what I'm saying.
So I don't see how it can be a prequel.
Yeah, the fact that it was the randomization, checking randomly all of his friends dusted.
Except if the trailer didn't want to give anything away since it came out before the movie.
Well, also too, the trailer, people have noticed too, in Peter's passport, it doesn't give a year.
Yeah, so maybe the trailer was some misdirection.
I think they erased the year in the trailer to, again, not give anything away.
Right, no, but I'm saying, yes, obviously that's what they were doing. I'm saying maybe they put all those characters in the trailer as like misdirection. Maybe when the film comes out, they're not all going to be in it. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I mean?
Oh, misdirection. Okay. All right, so let's go to the final part with good old Captain America. He gets sent back in time to return the stones. I've talked about my thoughts about that and the cubish and all that other stuff. So he goes away, comes back, come to find out he stayed in the past, which there was a theory that he might do that, actually, that he might actually meet his dance with Peggy, where they were supposed to meet for that dance at the end of First Avenger. He actually made it to the dance, so to speak, is what it is. And he's Old Man Steve, and at first I was like, is that Chris Evans? Oh yeah, it is him. It's definitely him. And he hands the shield off to, which I'm not going to get into the shield rant again, but hands the shield off to Falcon. And in the comics, Bucky's played Captain America and Falcon has played Captain America. Falcon still might be Cap. I'm not sure about that. I don't read those comics. I don't like the writer of them. But any event, he hands it off to him. I'm actually intrigued now by the Bucky Falcon series on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, oh, they have good, back and forth. I get it. That's funny. It'll make, something cute. But now I'm like, it just got more intriguing. Mm-hmm. And, I'm like, what? So.
Yeah. I just like that Cap finally, that he got to go back.
He ended up with Peggy.
Yeah, and he got to live the life he wanted.
Yes.
So
and that was the thing too, where again, going back, let's go back to Age of Ultron, where Tony's like, well, maybe I should take a page out of Clint's book and build Pepper a farm. And he's like, what about you? And Steve's like, well, I think the guy who wanted that went on the ice 70 years, and that's no longer my thing.
Yeah, but I mean that's what I hadn't really ever thought about that until when they go back to the 70s and he
you see
was watching
saw
her
Peggy,
through the window, then at that moment that's the first time it really hit me. Oh, maybe he could go back then and actually like live the life with Peggy. I mean, I don't want to get into the time travel stuff.
It's like we're trying to avoid these plot holes now.
I don't want to get into that, but it does make me very happy that he got to go back. He got to marry Peggy. He got to have a beautiful, amazing life.
Yep. It was happy. Yeah. And again, like I was telling you, I told other people as well, chronologically, it starts with him and Peggy in First Avenger and, their relationship. So the fact that this one ended with them dancing, them being happy together, again, I think puts a very good bookend to it all.
Yeah, I like
what it is. And if they don't, again, if I didn't see another MCU film, I'd be completely happy.
I totally agree because I know that that Feige has a plan, and I can't imagine that they're not going to.
It's like and I told this someone too. Okay, so it's like a TV series. Okay, and that's the best thing about it too is like you have all these characters, you follow them. Most movies you're with them for 2 hours and then you're done. With a TV series, you spend years with people, like Game of Thrones. You get to know these characters, you fall in love with these characters, you go on the journey, you get super invested. That's what we've done with the MCU, right? So, Supernatural, a show that I used to watch, actually. I used to really enjoy it. They had the first 5 seasons was a perfect, book, a chapter. Like, at the end of season 5, they closed off the entire 5-season arc. It was over. It was done. But they still had to continue the series, right? And by season 7, I was like, well, this is getting dumb and repetitive now. I quit, So, they put the bookend on the MCU. Does Kevin Feige have more good ideas? Which I believe he does. But like any TV series or anything that, goes on because they want to keep making it or whatever, it slowly loses its value.
Well, especially when you take out the characters that people are really attached
No Tony,
to.
no Cap.
Exactly. And I think that's what has me worried about the future MCU films is they have spent the time introducing the new characters. I like Wanda. I like Falcon. I like Bucky.
You got Peter in there. Right. You got T'Challa. Those are two really...
Yeah, for sure. I think that they have done a good job getting you to like these characters that really up until now even though they have their own films, are still kind of are still kind of side characters.
Well, it still goes to show you, too, and say the end credits or whatever. They showed everyone, throughout the MCU, but when it came to the original 6 Avengers, they got their own spotlight, And it's almost like these characters were the main characters throughout the entire MCU, and now 3 of them are gone. I don't think Clint's coming back because he, wants to spend time with his family.
Right.
Hulk's damaged, and really Thor.
Yeah. It just makes me worry because I just keep thinking about, like you're talking about TV shows, is when they try to continue shows once they've taken out the main actor. Look at that 70s show.
That 70s show, yeah.
Fell apart. Look at...
One Tree Hill, they took out...
The Office.
The Office, too, yep. Exactly.
I look back at all these shows where they removed the characters that were the main characters and tried to continue with the ones who, even though you liked them and they were always a part of it, they weren't the main. Yeah, they took out the glue, and so that's what worries me for the future. Now is the glue is gone. How is it going to stick?
They got to find some new glue.
Right,
is what it is.
Or they have to make you they have big shoes to fill here.
Yes, they do. And that's a worry, but given Kevin Feige and what he's done so far...
If anyone can do it.
He can. Exactly. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. So, let's wrap this up here because we are looking at an hour and 40 minutes right now. So, I feel like we talked about a lot of the good stuff here, but we kept avoiding the elephant in the room this whole last half. Which was the plot
we didn't avoid it. We already talked about it.
We
beat it to death.
We beat it to death, and really, that's what really stopped this film from really making it super, super phenomenal for me. I enjoyed it. I totally enjoyed it. But, it wasn't as enjoyable as some of the things that they didn't explain could have been explained. Or explained better.
It may just take, I think... Maybe there are, I don't know. Maybe there were more deleted scenes that explained the time travel thing better. But I think if we could get a better understanding of what they're trying to say, like what their interpretation of time travel then I think it may be, it's just right now I think everyone is kind of grappling with what everybody has always continued time travel to be. And they're trying to say, no, it's different in our universe.
How many quantum physicists do you think are at UT right now?
I don't think quantum physicists is really a thing.
Okay, physicists.
There's lots of physicists there. They have a huge...
I'm going to go knock on one of their doors.
Except that you're not going to get it next... You're just being ridiculous now.
I am. Aren't I always? Come on now. Okay, anyway, now it's your guys' turn, of course. Fire back, Facebook group, Twitter account, datespringdiscussing.gmail.com. Did I say that right? No.
I don't know.
Gmail.com. There we go. I finally spit it out. It's been almost 2 hours, guys. So let us know what you think of Endgame. There's a lot of people really liking it. There's some people that are iffy about it. Sometime in the next couple days, I'm going to give my new revised MCU list, and you can see where it falls for me. I think you should do the same too, Lisa. Okay. Rank your MCU films. But that's it, guys. Of course, we've gone on for too long. Hopefully, you're still with us because we love talking about this stuff. But mainly, we want to talk to you about it, of course. You can find me personally, Slim Dayspring 12 on Instagram and Twitter. And, if you hit me up on Facebook, Lisa will jump into, of course, because she, loves to look at all the stupid stuff I put up on Facebook.
I actually read the articles that he posts.
I skim them. What can I say? I have better things to do. What can I say? Anyway, all right, that's it for you guys. Go out, enjoy your week, and until next time, may the Force be with us all.